Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Wanted to talk to you today. I think in our last session we talked about H2H partnerships, and what I'd like to talk to you about today is partnering with the private sector, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So I'm with Mastercard worldwide, not the foundation. I run a team called Public-Private Partnerships, and what my group does is looks at ways to leverage Mastercard from a core capability perspective and see how we can apply it to the world's most pressing challenges. One of these areas that we focus on is the humanitarian response area. So who is Mastercard and what do we do? We're not a credit card company. I could go through reams of telling you about what we do. Suffice it to say, we are a technology player in the payment space, or you might think about it in the secure data space. But perhaps even that is not going to be completely apparent, sort of what we do. So what I'd like to do is maybe walk you through an example of how public-private partnerships, partnering with the private sector and Mastercard, comes together. So what does the private sector do? What does it mean to partner with the private sector? I like to think about it in these, 5 ways. When I think of what the private sector does, we solve problems. So we find problems and we innovate solutions to meet them. Sometimes we create solutions to problems you never thought you had. You probably never realized you needed to be connected 100% of the time on 15 different devices via 20 different apps. But you did, and you do it all the time. The third thing we do is we implement these solutions, right? So we operationalize them and execute them, put them into market. And the fourth thing we do is we measure our success. How do we measure our success? Through this word called profit. Okay, that's how we know that this whole thing we've been doing in steps 1 and 2 is working. And then the last step is we reinvest. So we take those profits and we reinvest it back into steps 1 and 2. And that's what enables this wheel to work. So I'm going to take you through an example of what we did at Mastercard in the public-private partnership space. We sat in a room with with representatives from about 6 or 7 NGOs, and a lot of you are perhaps in this room. And on the other side, we brought in about 10 to 20 Mastercard experts. And what we heard and what we talked about were their pain points. We said, we don't know how we can help you. This is what we do. Tell us about what some of your problems are and what some of the challenges you're facing. And they talked to us about a lot of the challenges that you face in the delivery of humanitarian assistance, in the delivery of in-kind aid, in the desire to not be disruptive to local economies. We learned a lot about the need for very quick response times. We learned about your need to often operate in offline environments. There's no power, there's no connectivity, they said to us. What else did we learn about? We heard a lot about the lack of accounting tools and the ability to sort of track and monitor in a consistent way. And through all these learnings, we developed something that we call the Mastercard Aid Network that we're very proud of. In approximately 6 months, from innovation to prototype, we developed a very simple solution that via a chip card and a simple Android tablet enables you to deliver humanitarian assistance and substitute the cumbersome process of deploying multiple paper-based voucher systems. It enables multiple NGOs to operate onto one card. It enables a beneficiary to receive 1 card versus 18. It works in an offline environment. It works sort of card to card and card to tablet. It enables a beneficiary to receive fresh produce because they don't have to sort of redeem a given voucher at all at one time, but they can do it. The program can be reprovisioned over the air. I can go on and on. This is my baby, so I can talk about it. Even if it's ugly, it's gorgeous to me. But the really cool news is now we're live, right? So we're live with Save the Children, with Mercy Corps, with World Vision, in a number of different geographies, okay? Including very hard to operate geographies like Yemen. Now, I tell you this story not to talk about, I'm going to go back from the money slide, not to sort of pat ourselves on the back, which is always fun, but just to talk about that process of innovation and how we were able to take what seemed like intractable problems and in a very short time go from concept, problem identification, innovation to being in field. So engaging the private sector, it's not something new, right? It's something that I think this community has been talking about for a while now, especially with, teed up from Addis and how do we engage the private sector, and I think there's been an identification of a huge funding gap. But engaging the private sector, I find we often think about this. What do you think about when you see a big pile of money, right? Often I find that the terms that come to mind are greed and avarice and excess and corporate profits, and all those words are all sort of smushed together, right? And I think that's our problem, is that problem of associating the private sector, and especially multinationals, with this notion of this dirty money and greed is what's at the heart of what is prohibiting and stymieing further public-private cooperation. It's funny, actually, when I look at this, you know what I think of? I think one of the previous speakers talked about this. I think about success. If a product is successful, it's making money, right? I don't know about you folks, but when I come to a new city, and if I don't know it very well, it just happened this morning, I needed to eat some lunch, and I didn't know where to go because I wasn't familiar with Piccadilly. And so what I did was I went into the restaurant where there was a lot of people out front, because I said, it's pretty successful, right? The food must be good. So when I see money, that's what I think of. And I would like to challenge you all to start maybe reorienting your thinking around how can we shift from thinking about greed to thinking about success to thinking about trust. How can money equal trust? Trust in a brand, trust in a company, trust in the quality. This is an interesting personal story of mine, of trust and partnership. So I am currently undergoing what seems like an interminable house renovation. It's been going on for 3 years, and this is not exactly my house, but it might as well be. 3 years my house has been going under renovation, and I have a contractor who he hired his brother, okay, to be the project manager on my construction site. His brother is a cop. His brother is not a contractor. So this cop was project managing my house, and guess what happened? He wasn't a specialist. I had toilets in the wrong place. I had things miswired. 3 years later, I don't have a house. So I got sick of this. So about 2 years into it, I said, here's the deal. I'm not paying you any more money, because I was the donor in this case, and my budget was going over. And after about the second year, I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. You're done. You're cut off. You got to finish this project within the contract. And you know what happened when he didn't feel like he was going to make any money anymore and the profit was cut off? He left. So it's not sustainable. The second we start to take profit out of the equation, projects and implementations don't become sustainable. And I'll tell you whose fault this was. This was my fault. It was my fault because I think I viewed it as a contract, and what I should have viewed it was as a partnership. So what does that word mean? To me, partnership means really being able to extract from each party what that party has to give. So from the private sector, what can we get out of them? I think we heard some great examples earlier on today about cash programming, for example, right? Why would we recreate a whole cash or digital payments network when there are public entities such as Mastercard and others who do this for a living and who are paid to do it for a living and who do it very effectively and innovate upon it? And I think that's the interesting thing about partnership. How can we challenge ourselves to partner with the private sector in a way that really creates true leverage? When I think about billions to trillions, what I think about is not just adding an extra dollar not a philanthropic or a CSR dollar from a private sector pocket. That's not creating leverage. What's really creating leverage is when $1 from me is worth $3 to you. So I'll end on that. Thank you.